Account distributions, unit of crop production option, allows crop operations to distribute expenses based on total production of the crop production center detail. We're first going to take a look at the details used in that particular distribution. Go to Setup, Profit Production Centers, and Crop Production Center details. If we look at one of our crop production center details, the transaction production and calculated production create the actual production in this particular detail. When you're putting in your new production entries or you're putting in your sales from field that identify the production center detail that sale came from, these details in the total production information are updated. This represents the total, in this case, bushels produced for this particular crop production center detail. These details can be used then in your distribution to distribute the expense based on the production in the individual crop production center details. Now let's take a look at how to do that. So we're going to close out of here, and first we're going to go run a report to look at our production that it will be looking at in our distribution. So we're going to go to Production Reports, Crop Production Detail, and a Crop Production by Production Year. And this is set up to look at the production year of 2018, and we'll preview that. And next we're going to group this by profit center so we can get a total of each profit center that we want to be looking at. And we're going to group it by profit center, move it to the top right underneath production year, and then refresh. This puts an additional grouping in here by each profit center that this operation is doing. And now we see a total acres for the corn and a total actual production, and then also for the soybeans. And we're going to be doing a distribution for corn and soybeans. Notice in the corn, we have one production that is not the average. That's because this particular production that was brought in was harvesting it as corn silage, and that inventory is maintaining it by pounds. So we're also going to see in the transaction when we use our distribution how we can make that adjustment for that. Let's go next to our distribution. So we're going to go up to Setup, Accounts, and Distributions, and we're going to create a distribution for the unit of crop production. So we're going to click New, and we're just going to call this unit PRO, unit of production, crop. And we could put it in a description if we wanted to, and then we're going to go to distribution detail. So we're going to click New to make our first portion in our distribution. And we could make a distribution that was just one portion of 100% to crop and assign the profit centers of soybean and corn. But in this case, because the production of soybeans and corn are not equal at all, you'll have much less production of soybeans per acre than you will of corn. We're going to make this distribution be two different portions, one for just keeping corn separate and one for keeping soybean details separate. So we're going to call this corn, and we're going to use the type of unit of crop production, and we get the message indicating if there was existing detail, it would be removed. You're going to click Yes. We could use the timing of at transaction or later. At transaction means that the journals are going to be created at the time you're posting that transaction. Later would just tag it to that particular distribution, and when you run the periodic process of apply distribution, it would gather all the activity to each account and then apply the journals for the distribution. For example, we're just going to leave this at transaction, but you might want to use later for using it in real purposes. And for our percentage, we're going to change this for corn. Well, we notice that on our detail, we have 410 acres in corn. We have 395 acres in soybean. That percentages out to about 51% of the total of those two, which is 805 acres, 51% to corn and 49% to soybean. So that's how we're going to do our distribution. and we're going to say that the corn is going to be 51% of the whole, and the profit center that we want is corn, so we're going to assign that to the right. And then we're going to make another new portion here for soybean. Again, unit of crop production at transaction, and it defaulted to the 49%. This has to add 1 to 100 over on our left for our distribution percentages. And again, our profit center for this one is going to be soybeans. So if we were to take a $1,000 expense, $510 of it is going to be allocated to all the crop production center details that are assigned to profit center corn. $490 of it would be assigned to all of the crop production center details with the profit center of soybean. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now we want to go back in that distribution and assign what account. Well, this might be used for a storage cost, where you'd want it not by the acres, but perhaps by what actually was produced. So we're going to find our storage cost and assign that account. And now we're going to go do a payment for storage costs. And we're going to do this right now over in my crop production center details. Let's go back there. The details that I have assigned as accepting distribution are my 18, because those details will be the ones with actual production. My 19 doesn't have any production in it yet. So right now I've got accepting distribution on 18. If that was not marked of accepting distribution, the 18 production would not be picked up. So we're going to go back and do our payment, and we're going to do this to the elevator, and we're going to put this in December for $1,000 just to make it easy, and we want the storage cost. And we have 1,000. We notice now that our distribution button is lit up in orange, indicating that it has that unit of production crop as the distribution. We could uncheck that if we didn't really want that distribution, or we could change the distribution. But now you'll see that the unit of production crop distributed to the two portions in our distribution of corn of 510 for the 51% and 490 for the 49%. In the soybean, we have it distributed to these three different production center details, all soybean, and distributed based on the production of that particular crop production center detail. If we look at corn, if you'll remember, one of those corn details, the home east, had a very large production in it. That's because it really represents the corn silage in pounds. We don't really want that as part of our storage anyway. So we're just going to delete this row out of here so that it doesn't get picked up for our crop production center detail. And when we delete that row out, we now see that it recalculated the 510 and distributed based on the production between these two details, leaving that the correct information we want in this particular situation. And our soybean is still allocated to our $490. So that's how you can use the option of unit of crop production to distribute your costs based on what those different details have produced.